So when you grow up with abuse in your home, I grew up in a horrible environment. Up until 6 years old, it was great. But even then, I remember some weird things happening in this big, beautiful house that my dad had built. There were these weird, dark energies that would scare the crap out of my brother and I, which, as now that in 11 years of being clean and sober, I've never experienced that type of dark energy or vibration or whatever it was. But there was always something just lingering in the house that was very scary. And my parents divorced at 6. A lot of my childhood during that time frame was just amazing. I loved it. But when they divorced at 6, it just went to crap after that. Like, absolute disaster. Lived with my mom. She remarried. There were a lot of good memories at that point. She married a good dude. Stepdad, I still call him dad. My biological, he tried to get his life back together, but then, ultimately I ended up being completely abandoned by both him and then moved out of my mom's house when I was 13. So I was a foster kid, got kicked around by life all through high school, had to learn. It was brutal, right? I mean, just one frustration, one big disaster after another when it comes to my childhood and my relationship with my parents. That gives you the general overview, but I can tell you I have been, suicidal and miserable, gosh, since an early age, since I can remember, up until I got clean and sober, till I was 32 years old, 31. And even though there have been hardships since I've been sober, I've been through a divorce. There have been, ups and downs, financially, gains, losses, whatever, the ebbs and flows of life. But the way that I internalize it and feel about it, it's I still am so overwhelmed with gratitude and good feelings and positive emotions, like just such a good state of being. It's not even comparable to what it was like literally from the time I was born, probably. I mean, at least my earliest memories have all been, some of them were good, but for the most part, there's always this trauma and ultimately abuse in my life. So think about if you come from any type of abuse, like let's say even a divorce, you have got to, there's some certain things I've realized at this stage in the game. I'm 43 years old, able to help, quite a few people through just sponsorship and then the sober living, and I'm seeing a lot of things happen. I'm taking notes, but for some reason I feel compelled to talk about abuse in the home. So what I've noticed, so my dad ended up dying of drug-related causes. My mom is still around, but there is a lot of repeated behavior from her to where I'm forced to set up these boundaries and say, look, there's certain things I just can't put up with as it relates to me and my kids. And things that, I'm even, at this point offering like maybe a mediator or counseling to where I can try to salvage this relationship with my mom. And, my brothers and I were actually trying to put a game plan together to find some resolution to some behaviors that we definitely consider continuing to be abusive and just stuff that we're not going to put up with that we're addressing right now. So I think what's been helpful to me to get to this point, there's a couple of things, I guess a few things. First off, if you come from an abusive home, and don't overlook what abuse might be. Like I said, it could just be a divorce. Maybe dad works too much. Maybe, don't look at it and go, oh, well, people have had it so much worse than me. Like, I don't dare compare children will internalize even the smallest amount of neglect as a reflection upon them. So you could be a very injured child, and if you don't stop and at least open yourself up to the possibility that you were mistreated, this isn't about hating your parents. It's not about criticizing or judging them. Look, they do the best they can. My mother's intentions have been good the whole time. Same with my dad. They didn't, have me as a child. I mean, I know there's exceptions to everything, but at least in my case, they didn't have me as a child and go, I can't wait to screw this kid up, right? Like, or I'm going to destroy my son's life, my sons. There's like, not only me, my brothers have struggled, at least, anyways, talk about me, right? So, their intentions were good. They did the best they could. And I'm willing to, at this point, because it helps me resolve the entire thing, just give them that, right? Like, look, I know you did the best you could. And ultimately, and down the road, what I'll talk about is you have to forgive them. And so, But in the meanwhile, healthy boundaries, very well, I guess first, acknowledge it, right? At least open yourself up. A lot of this is addressed in the step work. Beautiful thing about the steps. We go through your life together as your sponsor and you and God, and you will at least understand what happened to you. And there's just a ton of resources around codependency. See, that's the other thing. What I didn't realize is I am a codependent. You know, I think you could argue that I had a lot of narcissistic attributes when I was drinking because it was all about me. It was very selfish. My ego was out of control, you know, hardly capable of helping or thinking of others. But as I got sober, I settled into what I was programmed to be, which was a very scared, you know, child who comes from a past of abuse and neglect, who didn't know how to handle the world. I do not know what healthy boundaries were. I did not. I am learning it now. So that's a segue into the second thing. First thing, acknowledge or at least be open to the fact that you have been through abuse, right? If you're relating to this at all, open yourself up to that. And now you got to fix this thing. There's some cool work where you deal with the inner child. I mean, I know there's tons of resources, but at least open yourself up to the fact that you're probably codependent, right? If you've been through abuse, which just means you went through some abuse as a child and you have some tainted perspectives on what healthy behavior is and what it's not. I did not realize what was healthy and what wasn't, and I remarried 2 years into recovery thinking, you know, emotionally I'm prepared for marriage. It's been 2 years. You know, I heard somebody say, you know, you stunt your emotional growth. So I was a hurt 15-year-old when I got sober at 32 on an emotional level, but it takes a couple of years to catch up. So, you know, subscribing to that theory, 2 years into my recovery, I thought, all right, I'm actually a 34-year-old now. I can marry and I'm prepared. And I saw some flags with my now ex-wife, but took her on like a sponsee, said, hey, together we're going to go, you know, save the world and heal. And we tried. We went to seminars and classes, all types of stuff. Ultimately, you know, she was not able to conquer her demons. And I wanted to work through it together. She chose to divorce. And it was an ugly, vicious, painful, destructive thing in my life. Now, looking back at it, you know, it's all just feedback, and I'm grateful for all of it because, you know, I don't think I would have opened up the sober living. I don't think I'd be sponsored. I wouldn't be as active in my recovery or doing any of this stuff if I was still married to her. Most likely. So, you know, as a whole other thing, like I just never feel sorry for myself. What I do is I look at what happened. How did I allow that to happen? 2 marriages in, what I've done is I've married my mother's personality twice. And there's a lot of psychology behind that. I've been diving into psychology like crazy, trying to figure out what I did. How is it that I've been married and divorced twice? I've had custody of my daughter since she was 3. Her mother's still struggling with addictions and, you know, in and out of the rooms, in and out of recovery. My son's mom, we have 50-50, but, you know, I don't know where she's at. It's far from amicable at this point. There's major disconnects. And then with my mother, still massive issues, major things that, you know, I used to think it was me and I would internalize it like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And at this point, now I'm studying, you know, psychology and healthy behavior versus toxic behavior and learning about codependency. And the reality is, I understand healthy boundaries. I understand healthy behavior. There's certain things I'm not going to put up with from anybody. You can't choose your family. So I want to resolve it with my mom, but if she ultimately can't, you know, integrate into my life and my children's life in a way that's healthy and beneficial and predictable, then I'm willing to cut that out. But it's really not the way I want to go. I'm hoping that we can resolve it. But that's where we're at currently. You know, so I guess, you know, where I'm driving at, like, I don't have all the answers, but I would implore you, if you were, you know, subjected to abuse growing up, realize that if you want to break the cycle, and that's the third thing, like, break the cycle, right? Acknowledge there's a problem. Start learning about codependency. Start looking into psychology. Get counseling for yourself. There's a lot of free recovery in the rooms, right? Free counseling. That's what a lot of AA is. There's CODA. I haven't gone there, but I would love to. I mean, you know, if I have the time, but I eat up as much as I can on codependency. And it's just enlightened me as to who I am and what I've been through and what I need to do. Personally, as a father now, there is nothing that would keep me from my children, and I thank recovery for that, because 11 years ago, it was all about me, and I would put my needs and my addictions before my children. Today, there's nothing that gets in the way of me supporting my children. I will do anything it takes to be a good father to them, to break the cycles. And guess what? Today, my children have a wonderful home. We have a great relationship. I'm breaking the cycle actively, and you know, that didn't happen by mistake. I consciously made a choice to get clean and sober. That's where it all started. That's what this program is all about. It will give you back your life, give you, you know, the ability to be your potential. And my potential was to be a good father, even though I come from wreckage in my past. I can learn about it. I can get feedback from other people. I can learn from experiences. You know, there's just so many tools that I've learned in recovery that are helping me break the cycle of abuse. And so that's it. Like, there's three things that are helping me. I can say today, I don't have it all figured out. I hope I'm doing a good job with my kids. I mean, maybe you could say there's a lot of improvement that there is. I know there's things I could be doing better. There's a lot of stuff I want to do for my kids that I just can't. There's there's limited resources right now. Just went through a divorce a year and a half ago, so I'd love to travel with my kids more, for example. I'd like to get them out into nature more and do more trips and stuff. But at least they have a home. They have their dad. I'm able to acknowledge that I was subjected to abuse. I am educating myself on what healthy behavior is, what codependency is, what narcissism is, understand that dynamic, and then set boundaries with people who, around me and just make that proclamation. I won't put up with abuse, and I will set boundaries that are healthy for me and my family. I was not able to do that until learning this stuff. And then, third thing is break the cycle. You can learn all this stuff, but you got to put action behind it. And day in and day out, I go to work, I provide for my children, I give them love, I apply what I've learned into, their existence and their life in our home. And you know what? They're happy kids, and I'm a happy dad, and you can do it. It's possible. So, anyways, you're welcome. All the stuff I come across, I add to playlists in my YouTube channel. Happy to be a resource to anybody that needs help out there. Hopefully this helps. Thanks, bye.